Okay, it is 9:31 a.m. and I'm going to call this meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District to order. Ask the clerk to please call the roll to establish quorum.
Good morning, members. Member Bruins?
Present.
Harris?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Lalo'i? Singh Allen?
Here.
Sander?
Here.
Natoli? Orozco?
Here.
Howell?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
Valenzuela?
Here. Clerk,
Okay.
is anybody else hearing an echo?
We aren't in the chambers.
Okay.
Or is there anybody else on Zoom that can hear an echo?
Not me.
Okay.
I'm on the phone. I can't hear one.
Okay. Member Bain?
Here.
Villegas? And Desmond? And you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I am all by myself in the chambers today. I was hoping there will be some others in the interest of interjurisdictional coordination and cooperation, but I guess this is how it'll be today. So I would ask Christoph, our district engineer, to please lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Madam Clerk, please read a statement on public comment.
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District is being broadcast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, August 24th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. In accordance with the Government Code 54952.3, compensation for meeting of these legislative bodies is required to be verbally disclosed. The amount of $100 will be paid for each member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, and the amount of $100 will be paid for each board member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Area Sewer District. Compensation for Sacramento County supervisors and City of Sacramento council members is paid to the county and city respectively to partially offset the costs of those governments. Compensation for other board members is delivered to the individuals. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the meeting is live streamed and open to public attendance pursuant to health and safety guidelines. The practice of social distancing and wearing a face coverings, mask, or shield is recommended for the health and safety of all persons participating in person during the meeting, although it is not required. To make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it is your turn to make a comment. Members of the public may also dial 916-875-2501 and follow the prompts. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be contacted by phone and transferred into the meeting to make their public comment. You may also send a written comment to boardclerk@saccounty.gov, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And that concludes my announcements.
Okay, thank you, Alma. Then we will start with Regional County Sanitation District matters. Consent. First item is a consent matter.
I'll move consent.
Second.
Okay.
Is that a second by Member Hume?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any comments or questions from the members? This consent. This is item 1. Any public comment on this?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, we have a first and second. No public comment. No questions or comments from the directors. Please call the roll.
Member Hume? Member Bruins, I'm so sorry.
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Hume?
Aye.
Kennedy? Lalo'i?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Lalo'i?
Aye.
Singh Allen?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Natoli? Orozco?
Aye.
Howell?
Aye.
Cerna?
Aye.
Valenzuela,
Yes.
Dang,
Yes.
Villegas, and Desmond.
Aye.
And the motion carries with those members present.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is off-agenda public comment. Do we have any public comment for
We do
off-agenda
not
items?
have any off-agenda public comments.
Okay, then we'll move to item 3, district separate matters. Please call the item.
Item 3 is the Harvest Water Program Quarterly Report for April 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022.
Great, thank you. And I'll turn it over to, presenting Christoph, who's presenting on this one?
No, it's Terry Mitchell, our Public Affairs Manager.
Oh, Terry, I do have it here. Terry, welcome. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, welcome. And could we queue up the slides? I think item 3, thank you. Sure, it's been a while since I've been down here. So good morning, Chair Desmond, members of the board. My name's Terry Mitchell. I manage the district's legislative and regulatory affairs and the Harvest Water Administrative Program Management Office, otherwise known as APMO. And I'm joined with Mike Crooks here, who will be coming up shortly. He manages the Regional SAN. He's the Deputy Director of Operations for Regional SAN and also the Harvest Water Capital Program Management Office. So again, welcome. I know we have a busy agenda today, so I'm going to try and get through our slides rather quickly, and then we can answer questions. So Mike and I are going to provide just some highlights of the activities that we've been undertaking over the last quarter and looking forward what some of the next tasks are going to be. So before I jump in, just a quick bearings on Harvest Water. We plan on delivering 50,000 acre-feet per year of recycled water to around 16,000 acres of agricultural land in southern Sacramento County. We received a WSIP Water Storage Investment Program grant of $291.8 million, which was a result of Prop 1, the water bond. And as a condition of receiving that money, it was conditioned on the program providing public benefits. And Harvest Water really does provide a lot of public benefits: groundwater restoration, ecosystem improvements, water quality improvements, has a conjunctive use element, and does help with climate resiliency. So kind of an update on where we are with the Water Storage Investment Program funding agreement. You may recall that we went to the Water Commission last year to seek an early funding agreement, which was provided in the statute that 5% of the award could be obtained early. So we secured that funding agreement. We have reimbursements of $3.7 million to date. We have the remaining $10.7 million to be invoiced by September, so we should be fully reimbursed with the $14.4 million by the end of 2022. Our key goal for the remainder of this year is also to work on the contracts for administering public benefits with the agencies, with Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as with State Water Resources Control Board. Those key agreements need to be completed before we can enter into a final funding agreement with the Water Commission. So it's been a key goal of ours to work with Fish and Wildlife and try to move through these contract agreements and really coming up with agreement on what are the benefits, what are the descriptions of those benefits, the performance metrics that we're going to be held to in order to receive that funding, and the monitoring requirements as long as well as an adaptive management, and making sure we have some off-ramps from those agreements. We have no, there could be issues that we have no control over and want to ensure that we've got the flexibility with the program. So there's been multiple meetings with Fish and Wildlife, and so that is our key goal, is to get that wrapped up and a funding agreement by the first half of 2023. A little bit about outreach. You've all seen this graphic in the past, and it's great as each time we bring it forward. It has got more of the lime green showing up there, so we have had a tremendous response with all our growers and landowners. They want the recycled water. They'd like to have it now, especially in view of the drought that is continuing. This graphic was updated in June, and since then we have had additional letters of interest submitted. We received 2 last night and 1 for our eco-plan participation. So really a great effort here by our team to get out there with the growers. I think we're up to around 41,000 acre-feet per year in demand just for the summertime irrigation, and that does not include the irrigation for wintertime for our eco-plan efforts. So great success with our landowners and growers. On that
Terry,
note,
can I pause you? Can I pause you for just a second here? Is there a way that we can get the Metro cable to back out on the slides a little bit? They're cutting off the top and the bottom, so we can't see the last bullet points on the slides.
So to zoom out, Director Hume, is that Director Hume, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can they do that, Homa?
I don't know. I don't. Hume, I will check on that. I don't know if that's something that they can do, so let me check.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Terry, while they're working on that, we'll just continue with the presentation, if that's okay with you, Director Hume.
Yep.
Great. So with respect to our outreach, I don't think we would have been able to achieve all of that landowner support and grower support had we not have a great relationship with the Sacramento County Farm Bureau. They've been a tremendous help for us. They've been a great ambassador to get the news out. We continue to work with them, providing bi-monthly news articles that go in their print news and then also electronic news blasts. So it's worked out well. We've worked with their board, and they, again, are being those ambassadors. We're also having our team out in the field, again, meeting and building those relationships with the growers, discussing locations for turnouts where their on-farm connections will be, also trying to build some efficiencies on some existing groundwater wells, since we will have to do monitoring, see how we can partner on those monitoring wells. So that outreach and the relationship building is going great, and a good team out there. On the eco-plan side of things, as I mentioned previously, we're trying to hone in on those agreements with Department of Fish and Wildlife and continue those negotiations and with the Water Commission and as well as the Resources Agency. The Governor's administration really wants to see these projects move forward, and Harvest Water is going to be the first one out the gate. We'll continue to outreach with landowners on the eco-plan side and hopefully do some demonstration projects this next year, looking at where we might be able to do some grazing management options for some of the farmers, crane and roosting habitat, and those type of activities. Moving forward, again, our key goal is the public benefit agreements and funding agreement. The landowner outreach will continue. We're working on finalizing our draft recycled water user agreements templates that will be floating out to the growers here hopefully within the next month or two. Once we have those templates refined, we'll be bringing them back to your board for authorization for Christoph to execute those agreements in the future. And then also focusing on the water quality permitting with our Regional Water Quality Control Board. That has been successful working with the regional board. They've been very supportive of the project. And some of the other outreach is just working with the growers on the delivery logistics. How are they going to order water? Can we streamline that process with some computer applications and those type of activities? And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Terry, and I apologize. I was looking at a different note when you walked up, so I was confused. It was my fault. Thank you. And before you start, Mike, so was this mailed? Can we get this emailed to all the directors, or was it part of the packet that was sent? It's included in the agenda, the PowerPoint?
I'm not sure if it got to everyone, but Alma sent it out last week, the entire packet, and the presentation was in there.
Okay, great. That's one. And again, I'm thinking about Director Hume's comment, if in case they can't see it very well on the display. We'll make sure everybody has access to the PowerPoint.
And just let me know if anyone didn't get it. We do have links to it on the internet as well.
I can resend it to the members right now.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Terry already introduced me. My name is Mike Crooks, Deputy Director of Operations, and I'm also managing the capital delivery side of the Harvest Water Program. So I'm going to step through just some of our highlights of the progress we've made over the last quarter. So there's been a lot of project coordination with various agencies, but notably the City of Elk Grove. We are working with city staff and developing an MOU between the city and regional board. It mentions there for shared right-of-way use, but it'll also cover basically how we're going to work with them through the duration of the project, especially during construction, and lay out requirements for public outreach, for traffic control, for the city's involvement in inspection of our construction activities, and so forth. Right now, the city is working with their attorneys to put some final touches on it, and that'll come to the district for review and comment. Working with SAC DOT, as we exit the city, moving south and get into the rural area, unincorporated area of the county, County DOT will be helping us with assessing the pavement conditions of the roads. We've already done some work on that, and developing strategies of how we're going to restore the roads once we're done constructing the pipelines. And so we've engaged with them and been active with them for the last few months. We've been working with Casuma's CSD, the fire department side of it. As I believe you guys recall, we're planning to provide connections for fire protection at various locations within the service area, so we're still working on that. Caltrans, we do have a pipeline that's planned to go under I-5 on Lambert Road, so we will be crossing Caltrans easement, which means we have to have an agreement with them and have an understanding of how construction needs to happen. And then there's also some work going on with Reclamation District 1002 on some culvert crossings. This just a reminder slide. This is how we have the various projects divided or split up and how we're going to deliver the various components of the harvest water system. So 1 through 6, we've got the pumping station at Sac Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant. From that, we've got the Elk Grove transmission pipeline, which basically comes down Franklin Boulevard through the city of Elk Grove. Number 3 is outside of the city of Elk Grove. We refer to that as the Franklin Eschinger Distribution Pipelines Project. Still large diameter pipe. There are some connections off of that pipe, but still primarily a transmission main. And then 4 and 5 are the smaller pipelines, more of the distribution size pipelines constructed within the service area. And number 6 basically is throughout the entire service area. Those are the on-farm connections that Terry had mentioned. Just briefly stepping through each one and progress made. The pumping station basis of design review has been completed. The designer, which is HDR, they're active on pump selection based on our system hydraulics that have been refined. And surge analysis is largely done, but we're still refining that as well. The dates here are relatively early planning stage schedules. These schedules are all being updated as we receive deliverables from our designers, but right now we're anticipating bid advertisement in April of next year and construction NTP in August. Elk Grove transmission pipeline, it's roughly 5 miles of 66-inch pipeline. There are several trenchless crossings at major intersections and water bodies and railroad crossings. The designer, Stantec, they've completed their geotechnical work and utility locating through potholing. It says that the design submittal is anticipated, design submittal 1. We did receive that a couple of weeks ago, so that's in review. Bid advertisement is scheduled for February of 23, with construction starting in May. Franklin Eschinger pipeline, 10 miles, again, rather large pipeline from 16-inch to 66. We have some trenchless crossings there as well. The designers completed their potholing and geotech work, and it says design submittal is anticipated this month, and I believe we're supposed to get it this week, if not next. Bid advertisement, April of, should be next year, 2023. Central South distribution pipelines, again, these are the smaller diameter pipelines that will actually have connections to most of the properties out there. Design submittal 1, anticipated this month. We actually received it today. So they're on track. Bid advertisement, again, should be 2023, not 22, early next year, with construction starting in summer of next year. West distribution pipelines, same thing, more of a distribution system type design. We did, that came in as well this morning with the central and south pipelines. Bid advertisement, same time frame, February of next year, construction starting next summer. On-farm connection assemblies, it says 70 to roughly 110 connections. We are above 100 right now. So towards the higher side of that range. The designer is fully engaged. They've completed all their field visits with all the growers to refine where these things need to be located on those properties. Also refining and nailing down the flow requirements and everything that they need to complete the design of these facilities. They're fairly unique property to property to property. It's not going to be as much of a cookie cutter as we had thought or hoped, but our designer's doing great and they're staying on track. The radio path study, which is mentioned up there, that was completed. That's basically looking at how these remote locations are going to communicate back to the plant. A radio system is identified as our preferred method. There's still some evaluation that needs to be done on that. We've also looked at cell communication, cellular service communication, and that is a viable option if radio does not pan out. Bid advertisement is a little bit later next year, partly because we want the pipelines to make good progress, but also the agreements with the growers that Terry mentioned. We believe it's going to take some time to work with the property owners to get them signed and executed, because those are required before we can actually go out to construction. It's possible this project will have to be handled in a phased way. It depends on how the agreements come in, but we have some time to work with that. Program schedule. I'll stay on the capital side of things, which is towards the bottom of this chart. Again, these are fairly early schedules developed during the development of the program, basically last year. These are being tweaked and refined as the designers submit their deliverables. They're fairly tight, as I've already mentioned, and as you can see, they're pretty much bunched together. We're going to have a lot of construction happening concurrently. That's going to be a challenge, but we think we can work with the designers and with the community to get it done. Oh, did you want to speak to anything else on the schedule? No. Okay. Program financials. This is a slide that you've seen before. Nothing's really been changed. Again, these are early budget figures. These are also being refined as the designers submit their updated cost estimates with their design submittals. So we've not yet seen those. We are keeping an eye out for what recent cost escalation is going to do to our budget. There are some concerns about that, but we're pressing forward and we'll deal with the information as it comes to us. Anything else? What's that? I'll let you cover that.
Just to wrap up on our funding awards, obviously we had the Water Storage Investment Program grant for the 291. We also have been working with the Bureau of Reclamation on the federal side. Several years ago, we had Harvest Water authorized in the WIN Act, and as that money's coming forward, there are appropriations being made. So we did work with Senator Padilla this year. He did put Harvest Water project on his list of projects to move forward, and we were awarded another $24 million through the Bureau grant, and a grant that had already been submitted by staff with Regional SAN. So we have secured potentially 297. I do want to put a caveat with the Bureau of Reclamation funding. We are trying to get some clarity on the Build America, Buy America requirements. Similarly, on Echo Water, we had American iron and steel requirements. With the new funding that's coming out from the federal side, they've expanded that to everything Buy American, Build American. So we do need to understand the cost implications and schedule implications that could provide. So something we'll have to evaluate and see if it pencils out. So, but we'll continue to see if we can pursue additional funding as we move forward. And there are some possible opportunities as well as at the state level where additional funding could come forward. And even with the Water Storage Investment Program, they are looking at, I believe there was around $500 million that was allocated in the governor's budget that will go back to the Water Storage Investment Program applicants and be divvied up among the 7 recipients. So we should see a little bit more money that'll come through there as well. And I think that was it. Oh, our budget and actuals. Obviously, we're kind of in that low part of the curve. You see in 23, 24, where things will really be escalating as Mike begins working on the construction side of things. So we'll have probably more details as the program progresses. And I think that might be the last slide.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike and Terry, very much for this quarterly report. Any comments or questions from directors?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised in Zoom. Oh, Member Hume.
Sorry, I
Dr.
couldn't
Hume.
get get the reaction up there fast enough. I just don't ever want a presentation on this to go by without just expressing how truly excited I am about this project. I think it's one of the most forward-looking and progressive projects the district has undertaken. It's a little outside the scope of what you would expect from a sanitation district, but it's absolutely a vital reuse of public infrastructure for common good. And I don't think that Director Natoli has joined the meeting, but I just want to reiterate the piece, Mike, that you spoke about relative to SAC DOT and the pavement rehab and replacement. I know that that is an item that he feels very strongly about, of trying to find an economy of scale. And while we're down there disrupting roads and coming back in to do the repair of the damage that this project caused, if we can't find a way to actually extend that a little bit to do some actually road reconstruction and maybe kill two birds with one stone, if you will. And so just excited about that, and it's a great project. Thank you.
I'm just going to echo Patrick's comments and add that this is something that we've been hoping to achieve for probably something approaching 20 years. And I'm just glad that we're at this point, that, that the conditions with the drought, should that continue, this is an excellent way to handle that. It's helping local farmers. There's not one bad thing about this project, and I'm just really, really glad that we've been so successful with all of the grant funding that we've gotten on it.
Thank you, Director Howell and Director Hume. Very good comments. Any other comments from directors? See anybody else there, Alma? I know if you had a comment, just certainly speak up, and I'll just add on to what Director Hume and Director Howell said. Thank you very much for your work. Yes, the grant funding opportunities you've been able to take advantage of are great news, and the additional growers that you've had signed up for this recycled water are also very exciting. So when can we expect the next report? Would be November, I guess, Christoph, is that correct?
Quarterly, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there is a recommendation. I guess we have to vote to receive and file this report. Do we have to take action on this?
No.
No,
just
no
receive
action.
and
No
file.
action needed.
Just
Any public
receive.
comment on the item?
We did not receive any public comments.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Mike and Terry. And we will move on to Regional San and Sacramento Area Sewer District combined matters, starting with consent matter, item 4.
I'll move consent.
Second from Harris.
Okay, we have first from Director Howell, second from Director Harris. Any other board comments or questions about item 4?
We need a second from SASD member. First,
Member Bruins, I'll second it.
thank you. Or
Thank you,
take a
Director
separate
Bruins.
vote. Thank you.
Just to clarify, it's 4 and 5, right?
Yes, 4 and 5.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, yes. This is on items 4 and 5. I'll just make sure that's clear to the maker of the motion.
I do not see any members with their hands raised in Zoom.
Any public comment on items 4 or 5, consent
And
matters?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, then please call the roll.
Member Bruins?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Hume?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Lalo'i?
Aye.
Singh Allen?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Natoli? Orozco? Howell?
Yes.
Cerna?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Vang?
Yes.
And Desmond.
Aye.
And the motion carries with those members present.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll move on to item 6, districts, separate matters.
Item number 6 is future staffing and legal merger for the Sacramento County Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to Mike. No. Matt, sorry, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Matt.
okay. Can I get the presentation for item 6, please?
Metro, could you please switch the presentations? Thank you. They're working on it in the back.
No worries.
Here we go. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Chair Desmond and board members. My name is Matthew Doyle. I am the Director of Internal Services Department. I'm going to be co-presenting with Mike Hewitt. I'm going to be focusing on the future staffing, and he's going to be focused on the legal merger. For those that are online Zoom, let me know if the presentation problems are still occurring with it cutting off. So real quick, I think it's important to do a little bit of the background information again. This slide may look familiar from the last board meeting in May where we introduced this. In 2018, Regional SAN and SASD launched 2 concurrent consultant studies prompted by the Master Interagency Agreement expiring on June 30th of 2024. Those consisted of the merger study and the staffing study. These were completed in 2019. The staffing study recommended bringing staffing and certain county-provided services in-house. And it also recommended that we merge Regional SAN and SASD into one district. A board subcommittee was created, and they met several times between 2019 and 2021. And then most recently, your boards were briefed in May of this year. So these are the 2 alternatives that were presented to your board and initially discussed with the county. Hopefully this looks familiar to you. Alternative 1, staff providing all of the services other than those currently provided by the county DTEC, which provides IT, board clerk, and consolidated utility billing service, should be the district's employees. This is the alternative that was recommended by the staffing services study. Also, alternative 2 is executive staff, and it could be the top 3 layers or so would become exempt district employees, and the rest of the services indicated in alternative 1 could be provided by the county staff, but under more significant control by the districts. So as we started going through this process of analyzing and having meetings with the county to identify the various services that they provide, it became apparent that a third option that wasn't previously identified was the best approach for the districts and the county, which is identified here as alternative 3 and is the staff's recommended alternative. Alternative 3 is all staff currently assigned to the Sanitation District Agency plus Human Resources would become district employees. All remaining services would be reviewed separately to determine where those services would reside. So the districts in the county would jointly review the remaining functions and services currently provided by the county to determine if there is mutual agreement to continue those services. If there is mutual agreement, then an MOU would be created to identify those services. If either party is unwilling to proceed with an MOU, then the districts would obtain either those services through additional district staffing, or they would contract out to a third party. All right, so we have made some progress since May of 2022. Treasury Finance Services, a memorandum of understanding or MOU was agreed upon by the county and district staff. You just approved that, and the county approved it yesterday. HR Services, this is most likely one of the most complex of the services that we're going to take on, but ultimately also probably one of the most important. These HR services kicked off early June, and the meetings continue at the subject matter expert level to identify the options of getting an HR position dedicated to the districts. This is important because as we start to go through and identify the various services that is in this HR services bucket, we really need to identify the infrastructure. So if we're transitioning, we need something to transition to, and we can't really wait until June 2024. Let's see, fleet services. So continues at the SME level as well, and it's discussing the transition and the scheduling of those services. And in parallel, they're creating an MOU for the county to continue with managing the fueling stations. Here are some of the identified benefits of Alternative 3. This is obviously not a comprehensive list, but just a highlight of some that we've captured, which resulted in us making this recommendation for Alternative 3. It allows the districts and the county to work on each service separately and provide a more thorough analysis of each service rather than an all or nothing approach. It also accomplishes the goals and objectives identified in our benchmarking consultant report.
Matt, let me ask you a question real quick. So this Alternative 3 was not identified during the staffing study that we commissioned. Is that correct? Why is that?
Well, the staffing study didn't really identify alternatives. It just recommended that the district take over the staffing function.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
later.
Alternative 1 and 2 were identified.
That was later.
Okay.
And this was when Prabhakar was here. He developed those two alternatives to present to your board. And,
Okay.
and again, now we're digging into it and finding a third.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to switch back to here. So it also provides direct control over operational practices, including labor relations, class, and compensation. This provides the ability for the district to specifically tailor these practices to meet the unique needs of the districts and to be on par with other similar organizations. Hopefully you can see the bottom of the slide for those online. The table that's provided in here is the central contra costa sanitation district, which we benchmarked as an example. And it contains 3 of kind of the typical tasks that we have in HR. The top is a hiring timeline, how long it takes to hire, job class studies, and reallocations. And then we have the county districts, which is our current process. And then the CCCSD is Central SAN. So with the hiring timeline, it takes around 4 to 5 months if we do not have a current list to go off of, and 2 to 3 months if there is one available. Within Central SAN, it takes around 3 weeks. For job classification studies, it takes 1.5 years is the soonest that we've seen it, and if they are more complex, it can take upwards of 6 to 7 years, and then average being around 3 years. For Central SAN, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to change the job descriptions and 2 to 6 months to change the compensation. And then finally, on the reallocations, the districts follow the county SRA schedule for reallocations, and so that happens twice a year, and therefore it takes about 6 months time frame. For Central SAN, the process can take 5 minutes if the position doesn't add a full-time position or exceed labor budget. If it does either of those, then it goes to the board, which equates to about a month to get that done.
Mr. Chair, if I could comment.
Yes, Director Sander, please.
And I'll actually ask Jeannie Bruins if she might want to weigh on this as well. I don't want to throw mud with this comment, but I do want to raise concern. That little snippet right there is part of the reason why we have a city of Rancho Cordova and a city of Elk Grove and a city of Citrus Heights. The level of inefficiency with some county services is extraordinary, and just sort of back of the envelope, calculations in Rancho Cordova, as we took over county functions, we found we could often do things at half the cost and do them to a much higher level. So if this agency can reap those sorts of benefits from this separation, that's an enormous benefit to our constituency out there and to our ratepayers. Excuse me, our ratepayers. So I don't want to throw mud with that. I do want to raise that is a real regional concern for all of us, given the size and bulk of Sacramento County. But it certainly endorses the idea that this is a necessary change for this agency.
Okay, thank you, Director Sander.
This is Director Bruins. I would reiterate David's comments, but I was on the committee that studied this, and when we saw the contrast between how things happen for us and things happen for Contra Costa County, it just illuminated the need to make this change. And the fact that a change can take place in 5 minutes versus weeks, that alone just puts money in the pocket of the district and protects our ratepayers. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Director Bruins. Any other comments from directors? Okay, go ahead, Matt.
All right. So some additional benefits: it allows specialized staff to be recruited in a more efficient manner to perform essential duties specific to the wastewater industry. Currently, the districts utilize the county NeoGov system for recruitment of staff. This puts the sanitation district at a disadvantage since it's not intuitive and does not provide a clear path for recruitment of individuals that have technical knowledge and education that is specific to our industry. It's fairly common for us to offer an interview from the hiring list and for that individual to inquire, how did you get our application and what position is this? They're not really familiar of how NeoGov is tied with the sanitation districts. In many cases, significant cost savings as a result of elimination of large indirect costs associated with the current method of service provision. The consultant report from 2018 listed an approximate $927,000 annually, including both direct savings and avoided costs. I think it's worth noting that that report was started in 2018 and concluded in 2019, so that number is probably much greater now. Let's see, I think that concludes at least my portion of the staffing. I'm going to now pass it on to Mike Hewitt to discuss the merger.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. This is Mike Hewitt, Director of Policy and Planning. I'm going to switch gears and talk about the merger project where we're looking at combining Regional San and SASD into one entity. So there's been a lot of progress since we last briefed your board in May. One of the things that was brought up was looking at the efficiencies and the streamlining of merging, and we did dig deeper into that and got a better understanding of the efficiencies gained by merging. And I'll highlight a few for you. There's the strategic planning. That's one process that we have between the districts. We have similarly aligned visions, missions, and long-term objectives. And we believe that combining those efforts and those documents into one effort and document will bring more synergy to the effort and also make it more efficient. Same can be said with the master planning. We have two master plans, one for Regional San, one for SASD. There's a lot of commonalities. For example, projecting future growth and identifying future projects and modeling. And we believe as well with that and combining them into one process and also one document will be more efficient. Same can be said with the ordinances. The ordinances are set up to regulate and have the requirements for the design, the construction, the use of our sewer system, and the enforcement of it. And that is under a strong consideration to consolidate as well. In addition to the efficiency and streamline gains, there are a number of other benefits as well. We believe that combining the districts will give it more horsepower for the legislative and regulatory arena, not only locally, but statewide. We also believe that it'll be clear for our customers to understand. It'll be one sewer district as opposed to trying to figure out what Regional San does and what SASD does. It'll be just one service, sewer service provider. The one caveat is that SASD covers about 70% of the area that served by Regional San. There are also local collections with majority of City of Folsom, about half of City of Sacramento and West Sacramento, and those will remain as they are today. So there'll still be two sewer entities for those regions. We do also expect it will further unify staff, a little bit less of the we, or a little bit less of the you and us and them, and a little bit more of the we. So that's in summary of the benefits and efficiency gains that we see with emerging. Next slide. So progress we've made since we updated your board in May. We've continued our discussions with LAFCO. I see Jose with the executive director with LAFCO is sitting here today, and we've had some great discussions with him. He's been very helpful and helping us navigate next steps forward. We do understand there's a need for us to prepare and submit a plan for service and also get resolutions of applications completed and approved by the Regional San and SASD board to kick off efforts for LAFCO. And we do expect, if we do get approval today, move forward on the merger process, we do anticipate having those completed in the next 2 to 3 months. Christoph has reached out and emailed a number of executives, in the area with the different jurisdictions, being the contributing agencies or cities and counties, Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, SMUD, RT, and SACOG. And to this point, we've got nothing but positive and supporting responses. So that's been good. And so just kind of moving on to next steps, the next couple of slides are, if we do get approval to move forward with the merger process, what is that going to look like here down the road? So one of the main key components of merging is setting up a governance structure. What is the board going to look like? Well, we're suggesting that we set up a ad hoc board committee for the merger, or not for the merger, but for the governance structure specifically. We're looking at getting members that have experience, significant experience with regional San or SASD boards. We're also looking for, or suggesting a newbie, someone with a fresh perspective. We're looking at getting a balance of city and county representation, and we're suggesting about a 5-person committee. And we do anticipate it being just fairly short, 2 to 3 meetings, and we do expect it to be completed by November of 2022, or within the month or two of that. And so the other thing that we're recommending is doing a quarterly report. Oh, you know what? Let me back up real quick. So after this presentation, we circle back and talk about the recommendations, and your board weighs in and votes on the recommendations. Christoph is going to engage your board on soliciting members for this governance subcommittee.
Thank you, Mike. I was going to ask that question. Okay.
Okay. So the other thing we're recommending is doing a quarterly report. This will include the status of the projects and potential recommendations for your board as well, and possibly a decision, helping with the decision making along the way. One of the new things you're going to hear as far as the terminology and what we're coining this project as is one district. So one district, it'll be a one district quarterly report, and that's going to cover 3 different projects. The merger project, the staffing services project that Matt presented, and then also the finance and debt reserves transition. Okay. The other big component with these projects is the outreach, both internally and externally. So we've already done a number of internal communications to our employees. We've done that through all hands meetings, some management meetings, and also with email updates. We're going to continue doing that. We're also going to expand on that more and set up an intranet site and also a mailbox so we can have that two-way correspondence for questions and answers and comments that might come up with our staff. Externally, we did talk with our bond counsel, and they did recommend that we do a voluntary notice to our bondholders. And there's a draft voluntary notice set up and ready to go, and that is just to describe what the merger and staffing services projects look like, and just to reiterate that there's going to be no impact to the outstanding indebtedness for the districts. We're also planning on reaching out to our customers via bill inserts, sending those out in October, and those basically just very, in summary, define what their merger project is, and very clearly states that there's going to be no impact to services provided to our customers. And then, our communications department is developing a comprehensive outreach plan that's going to expand on not only those internal communications I mentioned earlier, but also include digital communications and media relations for external folks as well. So with that, I'll move on and summarize the recommendations that we're requesting from your board today. They are to direct staff to proceed with staffing option 3, direct staff to pursue implementing a legal merger for Regional SAN and SASD, direct staff to provide a quarterly status report for one district, and establish an ad hoc board committee to review proposed governance structures. And let me add one thing before I turn it over to the board is I didn't define what legal merger means. I know we talked about merger and I kind of changed the wording to legal merger. That is our focus for this first phase of the merger, is taking Regional SAN and SASD and combining them into one district. And doing that in a legal process, getting the LAFCO approval process complete and get it completed through the legislation. We're not going to be focusing on like organizational structure adjustments for this first phase. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you. Obviously, a tremendous amount of work going into it. Did you have a comment, Christoph, before I solicit feedback or questions from the board?
No, just at some point, just wanted to have the conversation about getting some volunteers for the.
Right, that's what I was going to say. I'm going to ask, I'll now turn it over to my fellow directors to see if there are any questions or comments, but I imagine if someone is interested in being on the committee, they can certainly let you know or let us know right now during the meeting.
Yeah, and in theory, that would happen after the vote, so that we would know that.
Okay, questions or comments from directors?
Kennedy nominates Desmond.
I have my hand up.
Okay, well, I'll start with Director Kennedy.
When we get to that point, I think that the chair would be a perfect representative of the county.
I was going to say the same for you. Okay, then Director Harris.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. For those who are new to this board, I'd just like to remind everybody that when Councilmember Larry Carr was chair of Regional SAN, he suggested that SASD and Regional SAN should be one entity. And kind of, in my mind, started the ball rolling on this project, although it's been talked about for a long time. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Larry. I think that he was a real champion for this idea. I think it's very important that this merger happen. I think that, for all the reasons indicated in the staff report, and thank you, staff, for bringing this report forward. I think we really need to go down this road. I understand, how difficult the work is, and certainly in terms of the financials. There are a lot of components to this, but it's a great idea. I think the time has come. I'm glad to see it myself, and I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Director Harris. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Hume. I'll second for discussion.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions from directors?
This is Director Bruins. This has been discussed in theory for many, many years, and a lot has come to play in consideration of this. And I think the time is right to move forward to consolidate the districts and to do the staffing recommendations that we have been presented with today. So I just want to state that I'm in full support of this.
Thank you, Director Bruins. Any other directors? Madam Clerk, see any hands?
Not see any additional hands. However, I will need another motion from SRCSD members.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second, Bruins.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Any public comment on this?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, so before we call the roll, I'll just thank staff one more time. Thank you, Mr. Enriquez from LAFCO, for being here and your work with the staff as well, because I know LAFCO will be playing a large role in this effort. So, with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Member Bruins?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Hume?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Loloe?
Aye.
Singh Allen? Sander?
Aye.
Orozco?
Aye.
Howell?
Yes.
Cerna?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Vang?
Yes.
And Desmond?
Aye.
And the motion carries with those members present.
Okay, thank you. And there'll obviously be some arm wrestling for who the county representative will be on the ad hoc committee. Okay, thank you. So now we will turn to separate matters, item 7.
Before we go to 7, can we get some volunteers? I'm going to try to see if we can get some volunteers. If not today, over the internet, at least if you could send an email so that we can get that 5-member group going.
Thank you, Christoph. So I'm not sure that directors heard that. So if anybody wants to chime in right now about an interest in serving on the committee, or otherwise send Christoph some communication to that effect.
Christoph, this is Jeannie. I'd be happy to serve on the committee.
Good. And in the board letter, we're looking for a couple of city representatives, a couple of county, and then a West Sac / YOLO. So that was kind of how we broke it up in the 5. But so thank you, Jeannie, Director Bruins.
Okay. Thank you, Director Bruins. And Christoph, I'll also follow up with you on that as well. Okay, now I'll move on to item 7. Madam Clerk.
Item 7, to adopt amendments to the investment policy for the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District for fiscal year 2022-23.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to our district engineer.
All right. I just want to very briefly go over this. The change was proposed by Director Valenzuela a while back, and our investment advisory committee went over the details of the change and voted to recommend the approval to your board. The proposed change prohibits investment in securities issued by entities that derive a majority of their revenue from fossil fuels. And we did, as our fiduciary responsibility dictates, we did talk with our investment advisor quite a bit about this suggested change, and they felt that it was surgical enough in nature that it wouldn't have a significant effect on our portfolio or our rate of return. So our investment advisors were comfortable with that, and so that's all I wanted to say.
Member Valenzuela has her hand raised.
Okay, Director Valenzuela.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Christoph. And I want to recognize Councilmember Hume and Councilmember Howell for working with us on the investment committee. It was a good few meetings. It was nice to be able to do some of them in person, and really want to thank the district staff and our investment advisor. I think it's really exciting to have an entity like this district talk about having a policy like this up front as we're starting our investment practices, and really, really happy with the result here, and want to just thank you all for indulging this request and making this proposed change to the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Valenzuela. Any other directors with comments or questions?
I do not.
Chair, I'll just go ahead and echo Christoph's comment there that is pretty surgical distinction that's being made, and so it shouldn't affect our financial advisor's ability to safeguard and provide the fiduciary responsibility for the district funds. So it's a productive effort.
Okay, thank you, Director Hume. Any others? Any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment now.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the directors. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the comments from and the efforts of Director Hume, Director Valenzuela. We can accomplish this this effort while still maintaining, obviously, our fiduciary obligation to our ratepayers. And with that, I will ask for a motion on the item.
I'll defer to the director that brought the item forward.
Thank you. I would like to move the item.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Hume?
Hume. Okay, and then we will need also a motion from SASD members for this item. So that would be.
I'll move it. I'll move
Chair
it to
seconds.
SASD.
Okay, and I have a second from Chairperson Desmond. Thank you. Member Bruins?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Hume?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Laloe?
Aye.
Sander?
Aye.
Natoli? Orozco?
Aye.
Howell?
Yes.
Cerna?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Bang?
Yes.
And Desmond?
Aye.
And the motion carries with those members present.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 8, our comments from directors and our district engineer. I'll start with the comments. Any comments from directors?
I do not
See any?
see any hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Christoph.
All right, a few things. Next meeting is September 14th, and then we'll be canceling September 28th. So that'll be our one meeting in September. And then just a couple of good news stories. There was 3, but Terry mentioned the potential grant money coming from the federal government for harvest water. That's a big one. We also recently signed a funding agreement with the State Water Board to get our grant funding going for the Linda Manor Septic Conversion Project, and that's in Director Frost's district. So we're excited that we got that notification. And then also wanted to mention that we were recently recognized by NACWA, that's the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, hopefully I didn't butcher that, as a utility of the future today, and it really focuses on management of wastewater and water and wastewater utilities, and also the recovery of resources, things like getting electricity from our wastewater, getting biosolids, fertilizer, that sort of thing. And so it is technically a worldwide recognition. There are a handful of other countries besides the U.S. that participate, and we were named along with 34 other agencies this particular year. They do this once a year, and so we were recognized, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Christoph.
Chair?
Okay. Yes, Dr. Hume.
Christoph, will you say again which meeting in September are we canceling? The first or the second?
The second one will be canceled, the 28th.
Okay, thank you.
So the only meeting in September will be the 14th.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, so now move on.
Chair, I have a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Director Harris.
Yeah, Christoph, I just wanted to say I'm pleased about the NACWA recommendation, and certainly if we move forward with a hydrogen project, they'll be even more excited about regional SAN.
Yes, the way this works, you get it. It's not like you get it once and then you're done. They do it each year, and you have to, at least every 3 years, you kind of have to re-up, and you have to show improvements in the different areas. So we've been doing it every 3 years, and that's something that we could probably build into a future application.
All right, thank you, Director Harris.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on item 8? All right, well, now let's move on to item 9. Let's see, we start the meeting with regional sanitation district matters. Then we move into sanitation district, sewer district matters. Now we're back to sewer district only matters, which is an agenda feature that will change, obviously, when the merger is complete, right?
The biggest benefit of the merger right there.
Okay, so Sacramento Area Sewer District consent matters 9 and 10.
And I do not see any members with their hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, any public comment on?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, so I will entertain.
I'll move the item.
Okay, Director
Kennedy
Howell.
second.
Thank
Kennedy
you.
second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Member Bruins?
Aye.
Member Hume?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Howell?
Yes.
Cerna?
Aye.
Vang?
Yes.
Sander?
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
And Desmond.
Aye.
And the motion passes with those members present.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to our last Sacramento Area Sewer District separate matter. Madam Clerk?
Item number 11 is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, 30-year recognition. And the presenter is Bruce O'Rourke.
Okay, welcome, Bruce and Kimberly.
Good morning, Chairman, Board.
Yes, closer to your.
Okay, good morning, Chairman, Board. Bruce O'Rourke. I am a sanitation district maintenance and operation manager for SASD. And it is my honor today to present Kimberly Gamboa with her 30-year service award. I'll make my introductions fairly quick because Kim, I think, wants to say a few things. And I'll try to be quick, but she's had a fairly diverse career. She actually began working here in 1984, so that's a little more than 30 years. She was in college working part-time as a typist and an office assistant. She also worked summers for the training department and as a engineering student intern for water resources and the treatment plant. So she took a few years off and earned a degree, an engineering degree from the University of Pacific. She later returned to SASD She returned to the county in 1992, working for the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality District and CMID. In 2012, she came to work for SASD. She works as a sanitation district M&O specialist. So we have long titles. So in those 30 years, she's, well, actually closer to 38, she's accomplished quite a bit. Before I turn it over to Kimberly, though, I'd like to mention a few things from her personal life because it gives you a good idea of the type of quality people that we have. And I think it's just as remarkable as the 30 years. And since 2005, she's also worked as a UPS package handler. Since 2016, she's worked as a wildland firefighter for various organizations and now for the California State Guard. But probably the most important and most impressive, for the last 9 years, she's been a tireless volunteer and advocate for the suicide deterrent at the Golden Gate Bridge. And through her efforts as well as others, they're starting to put a net up. So with that, Kimberly, here's the 30 years well done.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, there you go. It does move back. Okay, very nice.
Oh, hey, man.
Thank you, Bruce. And Kim or Kimberly, which you prefer?
Yeah, Kimberly's.
Kimberly, okay. Kimberly, well, congratulations, and very, very impressive what you do both for Sacramento Area Sewer District and in your the rest of your very limited free time, it sounds like. So thank you very much for everything, and love to hear your comments.
Great. Well, thank you. A couple of the things that I've
accomplished, like working for UPS for the past 17 years, is because had a catastrophic event happen in my family, and also as being an advocate for the suicide deterrent, is we did lose our son in 2013. He was a senior in high school. So we've had a couple things that just kind of pushed us in different directions. But anyway, good morning. Let's see, my name's Kimberly Renee Gamboa. I've had a great, diverse career with Sacramento County. The county has given me so many opportunities to work in different fields and to grow as a person. But one of the highlights of my career has been working as a field worker at SASD, the Sacramento Area Sewer District. When I have been working in the field, I have had moms pull over in their cars to show their girls that they too can work out in the field. I've had women come up to me and ask me how they can do what I am doing. I've had men come up to me and tell me that I work as hard or harder than they do. And I've had homeowners in disbelief when I pull up in a work truck and solve their sewer issues. I truly believe that field staff and middle management at SASD should reflect the population that they serve, and over half the population are people of color and women. I would greatly appreciate if in my field, as a field worker, that an effort could be made for SASD to be more inclusive and diverse, and to recruit and hire more minorities and women. In my 10 years at SASD, only one other woman has worked with me out in the field, and she left after 2 years. I understand that one other woman will be starting at SASD shortly, but in 10 years' time, that isn't enough. Please incorporate recruiting minorities and women at SASD. Please do not let me be the last of 2 women to work out in the field when I leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate your comments, and if you want to follow up with my office, the Aerospace Museum of California does a lot of outreach with for STEM education and opportunities, and get folks interested, especially young women and girls, involved in STEM fields. And you would probably be a big inspiration with some of those efforts. So please follow up with me or with my office.
Anything I can help with, definitely.
Any comments from directors for Kimberly? Okay. Any?
I do not see any hands raised, and we do not have any public comment.
Okay. Well, thank you. The remaining matters are receive and file, and if there are no further comments from directors, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:43.